I feel real awkward because I haven't done this in ages. How are you finding being a mum during the summertime? Any obvious pros and cons? So obviously when it's too hot, I don't really know what to be doing with her. I can't leave when it's peak heat time, so like between 12 to 2 because it is too hot to be outside. I always have to be in the shade, so I can't be sun tanning, but you shouldn't really be tanning your body anyway. But if you want to get a nice colour, like I can't really be doing that. I can't chill out the back garden, I can't be chilling out in the sun. We have to sit in the shade, and she's usually like crawling or like getting up to mischief because she's putting a lot of things in her mouth, getting herself into danger. It's so nice to be able to actually leave the house and be outside with her, because babies are supposed to spend I think 3 hours a day outdoors, so that has been difficult when it's like freezing or fucking lashing rain. So now that it's sunny, we can do a lot of things together and go outside, and she likes being outside too, and it's also safer than being indoors because there aren't any sharp corners. What have been the highlights of your first year of motherhood? Highlights are definitely whenever she meets a milestone. I mean, yesterday she climbed a flight of stairs. I was really proud of that, even though each milestone is like, it's like a step closer to her impending doom. When she started to stand, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe she can stand. But then obviously she's fallen over more. When she climbed the flight of stairs, I was like, oh my god, she just climbed a fucking flight of stairs. But now I'm like, oh god, she can climb a fucking flight of stairs. So now she was supervised, obviously I was behind her while she was doing it, but also I think because it's just gotten me out of my shell a lot more. I mean, I'm talking to strangers so much more because she is so, obviously a baby is so approachable, like everyone fucking loves a baby, and she's smiling at people, and if I'm sitting on the dirt, she'll start like rubbing people with her feet or go reach out to touch someone or be waving at people and making silly faces at them. So it has like softened the most unassuming people, I suppose, in public, whereas like I would never speak to strangers really on public transport. I would never like sit there anticipating conversation, you know, with my face wide open, like ready for a chat, whereas she is like that. So it has opened me up a lot more to like have conversations with people, and those interactions that you have with strangers when they're a positive one, it really impacts your day, I think, in a positive way, especially if you're feeling really lonely. I mean, a lot of the days I spend just me and her, so I do kind of feel cooped up or like go a bit stir crazy sometimes. So it is nice being approachable to strangers because I do like talking to people when it's a positive experience. I don't mean like creepy men coming up to me, that's a different thing, but just like having people to talk to is nice, and you feel more a part of the community in that way as well. How to stop feeling directionless? I still feel directionless, like I don't exactly know what I'm doing. I have a sort of 5-year plan, but I'm also not naive enough now as I used to be that I know that things can change and they're all variables. Like everything in my plan, like for example, a baby wasn't really in my plan sort of, but she's enhanced it in so many ways. So what has really helped me is not looking too far into the future, because there's literally no point in doing that because things can change so quickly. I think just on a year basis, as long as you're enjoying your day-to-day life, look at your day-to-day life and see how you can improve things and where you would like to see yourself in maybe a year's time, and try to create the steps to move towards that. That's the way I've been trying to navigate life anyway. Try to simplify it. Like, you don't need to be a fucking millionaire by the end of the year, you know, but everything is relative, so stop comparing yourself to people online, things that are just completely unattainable. What would make you feel successful? What is intrinsic success to you, and what does success mean to you? It's not what it means to other people. It's just that where would you want to see yourself in a year, what makes you happy, and how do you think that you can achieve that? I think that's what's really helped me with direction. How has your outlook on life changed since becoming a mum? So my mind is changing constantly. I mean, every single day I'll change. I'm learning and growing all the time. Nearly obsessive, and maybe it's a negative thing, but anytime I'm breastfeeding her to sleep, or if she's having a nap, I'll read parenting books, or I'll like learn up on like teach myself child psychology or something to help make me a better parent. But it can be difficult if you're consuming so much information and you're getting overwhelmed with all these different approaches to parenting, that you can be getting conflicting opinions and conflicting information to the point where you actually don't know what's right or wrong, or you don't know if you're doing it the right way. And I don't think there's necessarily a right way, as long as you're giving them an attentive, loving, nurturing relationship, basically just looking after them. I don't think there's any skill set or like actual strict formula that you can follow to be a good parent. It's all relative to the person and the kind of upbringing that you want to give your child. I think that has really changed for me, because I thought that I would be able to do a course and then be like the perfect parent. It's like changing all the time. I make mistakes still, not huge ones now, thank God, but the best thing about the mistakes is that you learn from them and you can grow from them. The negative side of becoming a parent is that the world is also so much scarier. I was such an optimist, I feel like, but also edging on the verge of delusional, and now it's like to the point where I'm so aware of the world around me. I'm scared I'm turning into a pessimist, which I don't like. I don't like being a pessimist. I always want to be optimistic, and I want to make her think that the world is a happy, welcoming place, but at the same time I can't stop. It's like when I was reading A Ghost in the Throat, it's running through your mind all day. How am I going to protect them from prejudice? How am I going to protect them from war? How am I going to protect them from from climate change? How am I going to protect them from pedophiles? Like, your mind just goes to those places and you can't help it. And your mind reaches such horrific places, because if your baby just starts to walk, you obviously automatically, your brain is working in overdrive to see all the hazards and kind of the sharp corners, how they can fall, how they can hurt themselves, so that you can protect them. But it's the same way in like external factors that you need to protect them from. So with the living situation, I'm obviously scared of homelessness. I'm scared of the precariousness of my job. Was to get sick, if I was to die. Your mind just goes to those places. Also, if she's going to be abducted, like, it's really scary, and you can't switch off those thoughts in your brain. It's like a survival instinct, primal instinct to look after your baby. Your brain just reaches all those scary parts of itself and you can't switch it off, which is horrible. I've become less trusting and a lot really anxious, but I do force myself out of the house every day. It was getting to the point where I was nearly not leaving the house, which is not good for her and it's not good for me. Like, it's not going to help anyone. So my outlook on the world has been like positive and negative. What is your favorite thing that Bub has started doing or has found out? So she said her first word yesterday. She said her first word yesterday, which I think is probably the best thing she's ever done. I don't know if I want people to guess her first word or will I just tell you. Maybe just comment before I actually tell you. Her first word was doggy. It's obviously because I've been saying it to her so often. Like, every time Peanut comes into the room, I'm like, doggy! And then she woke up from her nap one day and Peanut came into the room and she just goes, doggy! It was the cutest thing, and now every time she sees him she goes, doggy! Oh my god, it's so cute! And another thing she started doing, but I thought it was a twitch. I was so worried I was gonna bring her to the fucking physiotherapist. I was gonna bring her to the fucking physiotherapist because she started doing this. Like, I don't know where she learned it. She just started going. I thought it was a twitch because she would do it every now and again, but it would look so aggressive when she was doing it. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, she must have been creaking her neck. But then one day Saoirse just goes, uh-oh, to her, and then she did it back. So she's obviously mirroring the shoulder shrug. But yeah, that's one of her best tricks. I love that one. It's really good when we're in public because on the dart, she's like doing all these tricks to people. It's like, I don't know where she got it. It's like I've been training her, but I don't know, because I'm not necessarily doing all these things to her. So I don't actually know where she's really getting it from. It could be from socialization with strangers, because people will be clapping their hands, sticking their tongue out. But yeah, but recently as well, because she's hanging out with Peanut so much, she has started panting like a dog. Are you tired? Okay, she's tired. I'm gonna put her down for her nap and come back. Mwah. Sorry, it's a new day. Advice you would give yourself before you became a mama or knew you were preg. I would have loved to create a friendship while I was pregnant so that I had mam friends like after I'd given birth, because it's much harder after you actually have the baby to meet up with people and find the time to meet up with people. So I probably would have joined support groups or talked to more other pregnant mothers online. Whereas I'm engaging and interacting with a lot more mothers who have kids now, and I have some online friends, but it's hard to find the time to meet up with each other because there's, you know, the schedules are fucking hectic when you have a baby. Also, to invest more in postpartum care, especially if you're breastfeeding. I didn't know how full-on breastfeeding was going to be in the first 3 months, so I wished I would have or could have moved in with my family then for those first 3 months, because you really need the extra hand, like for someone to hold the baby while you go to the toilet or clean up, or for someone to like cook you dinner and stuff like that. It's, especially when your partner goes back to work after paternity leave, it's really hard to find support or to feel like you're supported. It constantly feels like you're drowning. But after the 3 months, I really was getting the hang of it, and they don't feed as much, and it was much easier to leave the house and do things and look after myself. Is there anything you've learned about yourself after a few weeks off YouTube? The reason why I needed to take a break from YouTube is I find it really hard to create boundaries, especially with on the internet, because I'm an honest and open person, but that also means sharing my mistakes and sharing my failures. Obviously my privacy has been breached in minor ways, but a lot of those situations I have put myself in by putting myself online. I wanted to try take myself off of long form content, because long form content, it's more vulnerable. You're talking about yourself a lot more, and people get to learn more about you as a person rather than just like a snippet of your day-to-day life, or like what you're wearing or what you're eating. I was trying to figure out a way in how I could still be honest and vulnerable and still be myself, but also share myself on the internet while keeping an element of privacy and boundaries for me and my family. So I think I have sort of figured out what I want to do, but it's kind of like in my own way, especially because there isn't anyone that I can compare myself to or look up to in a way where it's like, well, they're doing it this way, so maybe I should copy them and I know it's safe. I didn't want to give it up in a sense because I feel like I've worked so hard on my channel. I also love creating videos. It's like one of my favorite things to do, and it's the only thing that I've kept up for such a long time. If you have been watching me for a long time, there's a lot of things that I pick up, I start, and then I quit. I felt like I didn't want to quit. I really didn't want to quit this. In my bones, I felt like I didn't want to quit this. I feel like there is a way that I can do this, because there's so many families out there that can share their lives, share their family life, share their children, and I don't see an issue with that. Like when I watch other family, not vloggers, but you know, like families on TikTok, like I love that girl in Australia with, you know, the baby Navy and Bambi, but that's just not my style, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to share my baby's face or name, but then where do you cross the line? Like I didn't know where to cross the line. Am I allowed to talk about her progress? Would she want me to talk about her progress? Am I allowed to talk about her as a person? Like it's hard to gauge what I know, what I think that she would be comfortable with and what she wouldn't. So I'm just trying to guess as her parent. So that's kind of the most difficult part, because some bits obviously I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have talked about that, maybe she wouldn't be comfortable with that, but then sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm overthinking it and it's not that big of a deal, because then I see people online sharing absolutely every single thing about their child, and I'm like, well, no bad has come from this, but at the same time I shouldn't be comparing myself to other people, you know. So I'm just trying to do it in a way that I think that would be okay and is not going to affect our relationship in the future, which has been hard obviously, because when you become a new parent, and I know it's an insult at the same time to be like, oh, they make their kids their personality, but I think if you're a parent, they're such a large part of your life, they sort of should be synonymous with your personality, I suppose. You spend 24 hours a day with them and thinking about them and looking after them, so I don't understand how you're supposed to not make them your personality but also be a loving and attentive and nurturing parent. It's hard to strike a balance with that as well. So obviously she's such a huge part of my life. It's as if she still is an appendage to me. You know, we still share the same soul, I'd say, for the next few years. I do still want to like share my life, and of course she's still a part of that, but I don't want to be so open on that end of it. So what I have learned about myself while being off YouTube is that I don't know how to create boundaries, because I don't see, I think I was a bit naive at the start, because I was like, I'll just share everything because everyone wants the best for me, and this is a lovely part of my life that I'm showing online. It's showing the nice sides but also the real parts of life, and I want people to be excited about parenthood if they're finding it hard. With like creating those boundaries, it's almost creating a fake life. I never want to do that, because I don't want people to compare themselves to a life that isn't even real, because obviously if I was hiding a lot of those parts of her and our relationship and me as a parent and me growing as a parent and learning as a parent, it's almost as if I'm, you know, not being authentic or not being my authentic self. If someone could tell me, I wish she could talk and just let me know what she's okay with. So at the moment I don't really know what I'm doing. I still do want to vlog my life, but I'm still learning. I want to create a safe space for other mothers and parents who watch me to be like, to feel comforted by knowing that we have similar lives. Will you ever make your old videos public again, especially with Ellie? They're my comfort space. I also love the videos with Ellie. Ellie is like the most entertaining, articulate, intelligent person that I know, but she doesn't want to have a digital footprint, so I took those down when she asked me to. She has been on one podcast with me and Emer, which obviously she's comfortable with being on the internet. If you still want a snippet of Ellie, she's in that podcast, but she doesn't want to be on the internet. Like, she has a private Instagram and everything, so I don't think I will be making those public ever again, just for her, out of respect for her, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I also agree, I would love if Ellie had a podcast or a YouTuber, because I would love to, that she's someone I would love to listen to, and I'd love to watch myself. Do you miss doing YouTube the way you used to? Yeah, so another thing is, it's so easy. I find it easy to vlog my life. I want to share everything, and I want to talk about things with people on the internet, because it feels natural or something to me. I don't know, because my family, even in real life, but like off screen, we're very like open, honest people. Like, we would tell our life stories to randomers, you know, that's where the buzz. I find this so normal to like talk about every single aspect of my life. Like, it's such a stupid thing to say, but it takes a lot more work to like film around not showing my baby while also showing my life, because like I said, I'm holding her all the time. It is hard to navigate how to create videos in an easy way while also keeping her privacy. So I do miss the way it was just like, I was able to film my life and I didn't even have to think twice about it, whereas now I'm like overthinking it all the time. Any new tats soon? No, you can't actually get tattoos if you're breastfeeding, because it goes into your bloodstream. I don't know if I will get a tattoo once I'm done breastfeeding. My new goal is to breastfeed until she's 2. My original goal was 6 months and I surpassed that, so I'm like, why did I go until she's 2? But we'll see. She might self-wean before then and I might get sick of it, I don't know. But I'd love to get her name, and I'd also love love to get something for Missy Moo, my old cat. So either where's Missy Moo, because I used to say that all the time. Yeah, something for Missy Moo, and also something for my daughter. Maybe not her name, because then that's another thing I have to think about editing out of things. Is baby a daddy's girl? Not really. Did you miss living in city centre, or is it more peaceful? I literally can't think of anything worse. It was the worst decision I've ever made to move to the city centre, but I think it was just because we were desperate for somewhere to live. Should have just stayed here until we found somewhere more suited and better. It just created more problems for us in the long run. Like if I wanted to leave with her for a walk, it wouldn't be peaceful. It would be like packed with people, like people smoking joints on the street. I came home once and there was 2 people smoking crack in our doorway, and she was in the carrier and I had to step over them, you know, that sort of way. So it wasn't really suitable, like family friendly. Like it's grand for a young couple. Like it was fine when we were pregnant. It was actually a bit of a buzz because I was able to see my friends, everyone was able to visit me. But once I had her, it was too depressing and it was too busy. Am I Christian? Okay, love. So I was born Catholic. I've been baptized, had my communion and confirmation, but my parents aren't religious. I think this was just at the time so that I can get into primary school, whereas in Ireland that's not a necessity anymore to get into primary schools. I think that's actually illegal now. I did go through a bit of a Catholic phase when I was like 16, 17. I thought I was a born again Christian. My mom brought me to a born again Christian mass and I was like singing on the hymns. I was loving it. Ireland is still steeped in the Catholic conservatism and guilt. As a faith, yeah, I totally love the idea of believing in a God, absolutely. Whereas like the actual religion itself and all the rules and regulations that come with it and the whole idea of like heaven and hell, I'm not really fucking with that. I don't think I am a Christian. I'd say I'm agnostic. Best thing about being a mum. This is so cringy to say. I genuinely do think that children are a blessing. Since she's come into my life has been invigorated in a way that I don't think could have been replaced by anything or anyone else. So much of a better person. But what has come with that is I feel an immense amount of shame and guilt, maybe for my past self or like mistakes I've made in the past or things I've said. So I suppose in that sense it has been a bit more difficult and more taxing on my emotional well-being. Once I get over that, and I know once I get through it, which I will obviously, she has made me want to be the best version of myself and want me to contribute to society more and make the world an overall better place. And she just has motivated me in different ways that I haven't been able to do myself, or I wasn't able to ever tap into myself. So I do think that she is a gift sent to me. She's like the best person I know. So anything about raising a child you've changed your opinion about? So initially, I know me and Jason, we did a Q&A when I first found out I was pregnant. It was like Q&A on becoming young parents. We did talk about christening or baptizing my baby, just because I was like, oh, it's a part of the culture and it's like a tradition among families. And I also thought that you needed to get baptized to get into primary school. But now obviously I'm like, what is the fucking point of doing that if I'm not a Catholic? So we're not doing that, but we're doing a naming ceremony. And my mind changes about things all the time. We're doing a naming ceremony for her first birthday. Also, another thing was I was leaning towards homeschooling. I'm enrolled to do a early childhood education course. I still want to do it anyway, just out of curiosity. I still want to study, because last time I did a financial accounting course and I was like, okay, I'm going to be an accountant or a financial advisor. I think I would be good at this. And then I finished the course and I was kind of like, maybe I don't want to do this. But I did do the course and I finished it and I enjoyed it. So that's all that matters. I like studying for the enjoyment, but also I get this pressure where I'm just like, everyone's like, well, what are you going to do with it? What was the point in that? You know, you wasted your time. Even though I don't think learning is a waste of time, I just do it because I think it's fun. So I was leaning more towards homeschooling, but I do think it's so important to be a part of the community, and also for children to be around other children from different contexts. I've talked about it before, but I went to a private school for 3 years. I think it just creates, now I don't believe in private schools. I think everyone should have access to the same education, but it wasn't like a difference in the actual standard of education in the private school. It was more so the environment that you're in. There's also less students, so you're getting more one-on-one attention, and your teachers then can notice things about you, and it's more of a personalized experience, if that makes sense. So it's not that the teachers are like more qualified in any way, but you are paying extra for that sort of like better amenities and resources and a better environment. So say we had like a really lovely, like beautiful grounds, a playground, a lovely library with loads of books, and then just like less students in the class. So I think you get on better in institutions the less people there are, which I do think schools should be set up in that way. I think a school more than 300 people it does more harm than good. I don't think that people can thrive in a situation like that. But I do think people should be surrounded with others from different contexts. I think there are obviously great positives to homeschooling. It would be a great educational experience because it would be child-led and democratic, so she could choose what she wanted to spend her time doing. She also wouldn't have to spend as much time, you know, sitting at a desk or doing it in such a rigid way. I would be taking that opportunity to like socialize herself and to meet people from different areas and to meet people from different backgrounds and learn more about other other humans. I'd be giving her a sheltered existence. Obviously you can go to homeschooling meetups, she could do dance class and all these other things, but the best way to learn about people is probably in that environment of a school. I think that's what I've changed my mind on, but I am still learning and still trying to decide what the best way is for her moving forward. But I do think it's a really good sign that I am thinking about these things all the time, and the more I learn, the more I'm obviously growing and changing. I just don't believe in private schooling as an institution, and I don't think I would ever be sending her to a private school, even if I had the money to do that. That is something I've changed my opinion on. Have your thoughts about motherhood changed since before pregnancy? I was one of those people who was like, I don't think I want kids, I don't really like kids. Now this is in my early 20s. Obviously as I grew up slowly, I wanted all of a sudden, it was like something clicked when I was probably 23, 24, where I really wanted a child, and all I could think about was like maternal. I would just got extremely maternal. But before that I wasn't really interested, and almost to the extent where I'd be like, I don't think I like kids, because that's such a normalized thing to say, even though it's not normal. Like, we shouldn't be saying that we don't like children. Like, they're literally children. But I think it was just because I was awkward around them, or that I never felt comfortable as a child, or I never allowed myself to be a child. So that's why I felt awkward around children, because I was like I was in a way where I was kind of like, grow up. Becoming pregnant, I've become so much more sensitive and so much more soft, but at the same time so much more protective and defensive. It's like some sort of rage that I've never felt from the pit of your stomach, that I've never felt before, has burned up, and it's like I would attack anyone who goes near my child. So I don't really like it, and I haven't learned how to control the beast. It's like when you hit puberty and you turn into a cunt. You learn how to control these emotions and negative feelings that are running through you, but this is all new. Like, since I got pregnant and after I gave birth, especially after I gave birth, it's like all these new hormones and feelings that I have to learn how to manage, and there's not really a set guide on how to do it. So I think that's the biggest change for me, but also that I'm just so much more soft. I've like really softened out, but at the same time hard in a different way. What's your ideal age gap for future babies? So hard to plan these things. I've only thought this from watching Melanie Murphy after she had her baby. I would have my baby potty trained either as I get pregnant or just before I get pregnant. So I would have her potty trained if I do want more kids. I'm not sure. I am pretty fulfilled and satisfied with her at the moment, but I know that I might change my mind. So I'm not saying never say never, but also I'm not ready for a child at the moment. My body does feel like it's almost back to normal. I feel very healed, but I am still breastfeeding and I'm still like growing and learning as a parent. I think once she's potty trained, I will feel more confident in my parenting and be like, maybe I do want another. Like, I would love for her to have siblings, but I also want to give my child 100% the best experience possible. Give them the one-on-one attention, like as much attention as they possibly can. Like, I want to give her the best run of it as an only child. One of the parenting books I read, the most important years apparently are 0 to 2. So I would like to potty train her when she's 2, and that I think would be the ideal age gap for me. Are you planning on moving out of Dublin? So we have a few options at the moment. We get really close to finding somewhere and being safe, and then we'll get rejected or something will fall through. And I'm not even that superstitious, but it's like I'm taking all of those things into consideration as a sign, or that it's just like the universe pushing me in a different direction. Don't want to settle down in Dublin, I know that's for sure, but I would love to live in Dublin a bit longer, but I also want the experience of maybe living abroad before she starts school. I never got to do an Erasmus. I would like to learn another language still. So I'm not sure, because Jason has a job at the moment, like an office job, but if he got remote work, would be able to do that. So that would be the ideal situation. I would like to live abroad maybe for a year and see what happens, and then come back to Ireland. The hardest thing for me is just deciding. I have a really hard time deciding things. I think that's all the questions I'm going to answer. Hopefully that was entertaining enough. I love you all so much. Thanks so much for the support, and I do want to go back to vlogging and showing my life, but I don't know how to do it yet. So